The safehouse walls trembled. Odors chopped the Denver air above, scattering dust from decades-old rafters. Harrison Ford stood completely still, his eyes locked on the open file still glowing on the laptop screen. Operation Greystone, unredacted. Status, active primary asset, Lena Kessler secondary asset. Redacted alias, Ford. Termination protocol, Alderson 7. If exposed, he exhaled slowly. They made me part of the protocol, he muttered. Lena backed away. What does that mean? Ford's voice was low and steady. It means I was never here to protect you. I was programmed to kill you if the wrong people found out you had this data. Alderson 7 was a failsafe. The trigger. But you didn't know that, right? She asked, terrified now. He turned to face her, and in his expression was something. Deeply human sorrow and resistance colliding. Not until today. The choppers hovered closer. A red laser dot crawled across the dusty floor near Lena's feet, pausing just long enough to be noticed. A sniper had eyes on them. We have to go, Ford said. He pulled Lena by the wrist, grabbed the laptop, and sprinted toward the escape tunnel they hadn't planned to use. Behind them, a missile struck the edge of the safe house. The ground lurched violently. Metal screamed. Walls buckled. They dove into the tunnel just as the room behind them erupted in flame. Meanwhile, on the top floor of the private intelligence firm Covent Group International in D.C., Eliza Dorn received a secure alert. Target lost tunnel exit unknown Team Charlie. Neutralized by friendly fire, she slammed her tablet down. You gave me authorization to take them out. She snapped at the man sitting across from her, a shadowy Pentagon liaison known only as Merrick. Merrick adjusted his tie. We authorize containment, not assassination. You're off book. Dorn, she hissed. This isn't about chain of command anymore. This is about truth going viral. You want to keep Greystone buried? Then let me do my job. Merrick's jaw tightened. Had your chance? Now it's my operation. Ford and Lena surfaced on the outskirts of Boulder, Colorado. It was almost morning. They emerged through a hatch disguised as an old maintenance vent. His hands were bloodied from the tunnel walls. Lena was limping. They stumbled into a small barn, out of breath, out of time. We can't run forever, Lena whispered. No, he said, but we're not running anymore. He opened the laptop and connected to a hidden satellite line, something he hadn't touched since his agency days. What are you doing? Lena asked. Leaking it. If you do that, I know, he said. But that's the only way we win. The files were massive, hundreds of gigabytes, but he had an access code built into the original system, buried under layers of deniable encryption. A code only one man ever had clearance to use. The upload began. Transfer 3%, 12%, 27%. Then the screen flashed. Incoming call, Jack Reese. Ford froze. He clicked accept. Jack's face appeared older, beard streaked with gray, but alive. Jesus, Harry, you actually did it. You knew Lena was alive. I knew they were hunting something, Jack replied. Didn't know it was her until 3 days. I'll go, why didn't you stop them? 'Cause I wasn't sure if I could trust you. Not after what happened in Kandahar. Not after what you buried. Ford's voice dropped. I buried it because I thought it would protect her. Protect everyone. Jack nodded. And now it's going public. Lena leaned over Ford's shoulder. If we upload this, will they stop chasing us? Jack didn't answer right away. No, he said, but they'll have to run too. Ford looked at the screen. The upload was at 94%. Jack, he said they'll come after her again. I know, Jack replied. That's why I'm setting up a new identity. For her. In Iceland. It's already done. You just have to survive the next 10 minutes. Ford gave a tired half-smile. 10 minutes is a lifetime in this game. Back in D.C., Merrick watched the data begin to leak across the dark web. His phone exploded with calls from 4 international agencies. Too late? He turned to Eliza Dorn, whose face was blank, pale with disbelief. "You've started a war," he told her. "No," she replied, watching the screen. He ended. 1. The footage spread like wildfire. Major networks picked it up within the hour. By noon, investigative journalists were tearing into Operation Greystone, detailing unauthorized military actions, backdoor arms deals, and civilian casualties that had been scrubbed from official records. Protests erupted across Europe. A tribunal was called at The Hague. Congressional hearings were announced. And veterans groups rallied behind Ford, hailing him as the man who risked everything to speak the truth. But Harrison Ford didn't appear. Again, he vanished. Some said he was taken by the same people he exposed. Others claimed he was hiding in Greenland. A few believed he died that night, but Lena knew the truth. She stood at the edge of a quiet Icelandic fjord, the laptop still in her hands. Watching the northern lights shimmer across the sea, she was 17, but her eyes were ancient. Now, and somewhere in the stillness, she whispered, "The silence is over." The highway to Denver cut through open plains and narrow passes. Harrison Ford drove alone, every mile stitching together fragments of a past he'd tried hard to forget. The sun had just started to rise, casting golden light across the road. Ahead, but his mind was still buried in shadows. He hadn't seen Lena since the Kandahar base evacuation. She was barely 7 then, quiet, observant. She had held his hand through the smoke and screams. Too small to understand the politics, but smart enough to know the truth when no one said it. Now 17, hunted, remembering, and somewhere out there she was waiting or running. Ford glanced at the rearview mirror. A dark SUV had been following him for nearly 40 miles. Not tailgating, not overtaking, just there. He noted it, adjusted his speed, and took an early exit toward a gas station. The SUV didn't follow. Confirmed. They're tracking him. But not ready to engage yet? Inside the gas station, Ford paid in cash, grabbed a coffee, and stepped outside. He took out the burner phone and dialed again. "She's still at the Denver location?" he asked. The voice replied as of 30 minutes ago. But she's spooked. Whoever got to her first left a trail. Was it your team? No. We're not the only ones chasing this. Ford didn't respond. Kay knew what that meant. Black operatives, private contractors, people who don't leave paperwork. As he drove on, Eliza Dorn landed in Denver, stepping into an armored SUV surrounded by a detail dressed like federal agents but trained like ghosts. "Ford's coming," her assistant said. ETA 90 minutes. And Lena intercepted a message. Someone slid a photo under her safe house door with handwriting that matches Ford's past documentation. "She's on the move." Eliza clenched her jaw. "He's trying to draw her out. Or protect her," the assistant replied. Same thing. She opened her tablet. A satellite image of Safe House 1 to see blinked. Then a heat signature disappeared. "She's already gone." Lena moved fast through Denver's warehouse district, backpack on, hoodie pulled tight. She had memorized 3 exit routes. Her training, short, hidden, and intense, had drilled her in escape and evasion. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. The photograph in her pocket felt heavy, he remembered. That meant everything and nothing. She ducked into an alley, scanned for cameras, then dropped a GPS jammer she'd built from scavenged parts. She had one goal: get to the backup location. But when she rounded the corner, she froze. A man was already waiting there. Not Ford. Black tactical gear. No insignia. Earpiece visible. He held out a hand. Lena Romani. She turned and ran. He moved to chase, but stopped suddenly. A low voice behind him said, "She's not yours." Harrison Ford stepped out of the shadows, gun in hand, steady and unshaking. The man smiled slightly. "Mr. Ford, you're a long way from Hollywood. Put the come down now. Or what? You'll shoot me in broad daylight." Ford didn't answer. He fired once. not at the man, but at the earpiece. It shattered, blood streaking from the side of the agent's head as he fell sideways, stunned but alive. "Next time, it's your spine," Ford muttered. Lena had stopped watching. Her eyes were wide. He looked at her, really looked, and said, "You remember me?" She nodded. "You were the only one who told the truth." Sirens blared in the distance. Ford gestured. "Come with me now." They ran, ducking into an underground maintenance tunnel that led away from the district. As they vanished, the man on the ground pulled out a small satellite radio and whispered one word before passing out: "Contact." Back in Washington, Eliza's tablet pinged. The connection was confirmed. Ford had made physical contact with Lena. She turned to her assistant and said, "Now it's official. Silence protocol is breached." He stared at her. "What happens now?" She looked out the window. "Now we burn everything." The tunnel was damp and narrow, carved decades ago for Denver's forgotten infrastructure. Harrison Ford moved quickly but carefully, guiding Lena through the maze of metal pipes and echoing footsteps. The silence between them was loud. Years of questions, regrets, truths unspoken. After what felt like an hour, they emerged into an abandoned rail yard on the city's edge. Ford checked the perimeter. No drones, no black vans, no obvious tails. They had a window. Lena sat down on a rusted toolbox, pulling her hoodie off. Her face was sharp, alert, but tired. She looked older than 17. "You said you'd find me if it ever happened again," she said quietly. Ford looked at her, "And I did." She nodded. "They killed my contact 2 days ago. Left a single phrase on his body: 'The silence must remain.'" Ford clenched his jaw. That phrase, it hadn't been used since Kandahar. It was a command, a warning, and a declaration of violence. "Tell me everything you remember from that night," he said. She looked away. There was smoke, gunfire, but also cameras, not military ones, civilian, hidden. Someone was filming the extraction. "My mother, she had a flash drive. Hey, she was screaming for someone to take it." Ford tensed. "You saw the drive?" "I saw it," she whispered. "And I took it. I kept it hidden for years. Then last week I tried to decrypt it. The moment I did, they found me." Ford closed his eyes. It all made sense now. The silence protocol wasn't just about a trigger phrase. It was about the data, a visual record of illegal operations, involving us and foreign agents in a covert exchange that had gone bad. The footage had always been rumored, but now it was confirmed. And Lena, the girl no one counted on surviving, had the only copy. He stood. "We need to get you out of the country tonight." But as he turned, his phone buzzed. A scrambled line broke through. "Ford, you're being set up. Eliza Dorn is not with the agency anymore. She's freelancing, funded by a foreign backer. Russian, maybe. Or private defense. The order to kill Lena didn't come from us." Static. Then a voice he hadn't heard in years. "Ford, don't trust anyone, especially not your old friends." He froze. That voice, Jack Reese. Presumed dead. Shot in Istanbul 7 years ago. And if Jack was alive, the rabbit hole just went deeper. Lena looked at him, confused. "What is it?" He shook his head. "It's nothing we can afford to ignore." Back in Washington, Eliza Dorn stood in a conference room high above the Capitol, staring at live drone footage from Denver. Ford and Lena had just entered an underground safe house. A man beside her, sharp suit, unmarked lapel pin, spoke into a mic. "Strike team in position. Awaiting final authorization." Eliza didn't respond immediately. She was watching Ford's movements carefully. "He's not trying to run," she said. "He's digging in." The man asked, "You want us to?" "Proceed." She looked at him, then at the screen. "No," she said finally. "Not yet." In the safe house, Lena pulled the old flash drive from her backpack. It was small, black, worn from years of hiding. "It's one more thing." She said, "I didn't decrypt all of it. Just the first file. The rest is locked behind a voice print key. Ford looked at her. Whose voice? Lena hesitated. Yours? Ford blinked. He hadn't expected that. Why mine? My mother trusted you, she said softly. She said, if I don't make it, Harrison will know what to do. His stomach turned. Guilt, grief, duty. He took the drive and plugged it into the secure terminal in the safe house. A prompt appeared. Voice authentication required. Agent Ford, he leaned in. This is Harrison Ford. Clearance Alderson 7. Activate silence protocol. The screen blinked. Processing. Then access granted. The files opened. Dozens of video clips, coordinates, names, documents stamped with multiple intelligence agency seals. CIA, FSB, MI6. One folder caught his eye. Operation Greystone unredacted. He clicked it. Lena leaned in. Her voice shook. Greystone. Ford didn't answer. Not yet. 'Cause what appeared next changed everything. A video Kandahar base. The night of the extraction, it's her mother. Bleeding, shouting at the camera. They're selling the war. It's a business. This isn't America anymore. It's a market for violence. Then the screen cut to black. Lena looked up at Ford. That's why they killed her, isn't it? Ford's eyes didn't leave the screen. They didn't just kill her, he said. They tried to erase her. And now they're going to come for both of us. Outside, the sound of approaching choppers echoed. The window was closing. The wind outside Harrison's Wyoming cabin howled like something ancient had returned from exile. He moved quickly, packing the old leather box into a secure military-style bag. Each item, the ring, the photograph, the folded cloth, fit into a compartment as if prepared for this moment long ago. This wasn't panic. It was precision, a ritual he hadn't performed in 13 years. He reached into a hollowed-out wooden panel in the floor and retrieved a sat phone. No GPS, no internet, only encrypted point-to-point comms. He turned it on, punched in a code, and waited. 3 long rings. Then a voice. Say the tide. Ford replied calmly. The tide doesn't ask permission. There was silence. Then a click. A deeper voice now. You shouldn't have said it. I had to, Harrison said. They buried it too deep. And now it's waking up without us. Are you compromised? No, but they will be. The studio broadcast went global. Someone will trace it. The voice paused. Go to Denver. Take the North Tunnel. Protocols reinstated. Ford didn't answer. He ended the call, smashed the sat phone, and dropped the pieces into the fireplace. Back in Langley, Eliza Dorn stood in front of a wall-sized screen, flanked by 2 high-level DIA officials. A map of domestic surveillance heat points lit up New York, Los Angeles, Arlington, Denver. Her voice was calm but tight. The silence protocol was decommissioned in 2014 under the JAG emergency order after Kandahar. The moment Ford said the phrase, our sleeper AI woke up and reflagged all suppressed subjects connected to Alderson 7. One of the officials, a former Navy intelligence officer, narrowed his eyes. So why him? Why now? Because the system wasn't listening for locations or weapons, Eliza replied. It was listening for memory, for psychological residue. Something Ford buried out there. Something that still hurts. It's the phrase he used. Real pain deserves respect. Wasn't just emotional. It was the final line from the debriefing tape that disappeared after Helmand. And who still has access to that? No one officially, but if he remembers it word for word. Then he wasn't just a witness, the officer finished. He was part of it. They stood in silence. Suddenly, an alarm pinged. A separate AI thread tracking unlisted movements of former intelligence assets had triggered. Unregistered flight log origin, Northern Utah, destination, classified passenger. Kate Dellinger. Eliza's blood ran cold. Oh my God. The second officer glanced at her. Who's Dellinger? She stared at the screen. Black site. Lead from the Kandahar project. Dead since 2012. Are you saying I'm saying we didn't bury it deep enough? Meanwhile, on a dusty back road near Casper, Wyoming, a dark SUV pulled into view behind Harrison's truck. He noticed it in the rearview mirror and narrowed his eyes. Civilian plates, wrong model for a coincidence. He tapped the brakes. The SUV slowed to not close enough for an ambush, but too smooth for a tail. He pulled off into an old service station, watching it pass without turning. But he didn't relax. Inside the station, the old man behind the counter gave a short nod. Harrison returned it, still using the code phrase. The man said, "It still works," Ford replied. "You heading to Denver?" Ford didn't answer. The man pulled out a dusty folder from beneath the counter and slid it across. "Someone came by last night asking about you. Left this behind, said you'd know what to do." Ford opened the folder. Inside was a photo of a girl, maybe 10 years old, with a note. "She remembers too." Ford froze. In the reflection of the dusty glass cooler door, the SUV had returned, parked at the far end of the lot. 2 figures inside. He grabbed the folder, thanked the man, and walked out. No sudden moves, no sign of panic, but in his chest something cracked open. He thought he'd been alone in remembering Kandahar, though he wasn't sure. And if the girl was alive, if she remembered, then the people who buried the truth would do anything to silence her. He turned the ignition. Denver could wait. First, he had to find the girl. The motel sat on the edge of Cheyenne, Wyoming, dusty, silent, and forgotten. Harrison pulled in just after sundown. Neon light flickered above the entrance, casting the word vacancy in a broken pulse across his windshield. He parked under a dead security camera, scanned the lot, and stepped out. Inside, a woman at the front desk looked up, mid-40s, steel eyes, tired but alert. "You pay cash?" she asked. "Always," he replied. She nodded, didn't ask his name, and handed him the key to room 12. Once inside, Ford locked the door, drew the curtains, and dumped the folder onto the bed. The photo of the girl stared up at him, dark curls, bright eyes, standing outside a tent lined with military canvas. He remembered her. Her name had been Lena. She was the daughter of an Afghan interpreter, one who had helped U.S. forces gather intel on a Taliban warlord. But what no one ever officially admitted was that Lena had witnessed something else. A failed drone strike that hit the wrong target. A village school. Ford had seen it, tried to stop the cover-up, and nearly lost his career. She'd been flown to safety, her identity wiped, sealed into a black program marked Alderson 7. He thought she'd been relocated, erased, maybe even killed. But if she was alive... Ford took out an old burner phone from his bag and dialed a number he hadn't used in over a decade. It rang once. Then, "You're early. I need to locate a protected asset from Kandahar," he said. B-17 by now. Name, Lena Ramani. Code name was GHOST Seed. The line went silent. You shouldn't say that name on any line, even this one. She made contact. "You're not authorized to track her?" Ford's tone went cold. She remembered. "And someone's already looking." The voice sighed. "All right, give me a few hours." Ford hung up, pulled the bed frame aside, and started unscrewing the floor vent. He tucked his duffel inside, only keeping his sidearm and the folder. Then he turned off the lights and waited by the window, watching the road. Cross town, Eliza Dorn was boarding a government jet. A digital briefing lit up her tablet screen as she fastened her belt. Alert, unconfirmed reappearance of asset ghost seed. Connection to silence protocol. Ford confirmed. She exhaled, ran a hand through her hair, and turned to the tech officer beside her. "Pull every archived Kandahar brief from Alderson 7 and prep an extraction team. Target Lena. If she remembers what happened that day, every firewall we've built around the protocol will collapse." And Ford Eliza looked out the window. "Don't engage him yet. Just follow. If he finds her before we do, this goes public." Meanwhile, in a dark van outside the motel, 2 men sat in silence. Their earpieces buzzed faintly as a feed from a satellite relayed movement patterns. Confirmed, one said. Ford's. In room 12, still no visual on the girl. What's the order? The voice on the other end was cold, metallic. Do not engage Ford. The girl is priority. She surfaces, recover, or eliminate. Quietly. Back in room 12, Ford sat perfectly still, watching the mirror. Not his reflection, but the angle behind him, the doorway. He knew he was being watched. He also knew the girl wouldn't last another 24 hours unless he found her first. At 3:17 a.m., his phone buzzed once. Ghost seed located. Denver, North Aurora. Safe house, 1 to see. He moved instantly. No hesitation. By dawn, he was already on the interstate, a black hat pulled low, sunglasses on, silence in the car. The folder beside him had one new item, a note handwritten by Ford himself. We failed you once, not again. And in a safe house outside, Denver, a 17-year-old girl stared at the old photograph of herself. One someone had slid under her door overnight. She picked it up slowly. On the back, in clean handwriting, he remembers, her hands shook. Then she began to pack. The morning sun lit the studio of the View in soft gold, but inside the air felt tense from the start. Harrison Ford, the world-famous actor known for Indiana Jones and Star Wars, sat in the guest chair. He wasn't here to talk about movies. He had come to speak about a veteran's mental health program, a cause close to his heart. At first, everything seemed normal. Co-hosts greeted him with smiles. Sarah Haynes joked about a stunt gone wrong in his last film. Lisa Farah Griffin complimented his decades-long career. Harrison nodded politely, answered with short, honest replies, and even gave a rare smile. He looked tired but composed, a man who had lived many lives and wasn't interested in small talk. Then came the moment that changed everything: joy. Behar, sitting quietly until now, leaned forward with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. You know, Harrison, she said, you've made a career out of playing emotionally distant men. Grumpy, stubborn, mostly silent. Is that really acting? Or is that just you? The audience let out a mix of awkward laughs and soft gasps. Harrison didn't laugh. He stared at Joy for a long second, his face still as stone. Is that really a question? He said finally. Or just something to get a reaction for ratings? You could hear a pin drop. Joy tried to backpedal. Oh, come on. I meant it playfully. We love your cranky charm. Don't you play into it a little? Harrison didn't smile. His voice dropped lower, calmer, but powerful. What you call cranky, some of us call surviving, he said. You think making it through this industry with your soul intact is some kind of character flaw? Joy blinked. The crew scrambled off camera. One producer made a cutting. Motion, they were trying to go to commercial. It was too late. I didn't come here to be insulted under the name of entertainment, Harrison said, removing his mic with steady hands. I came to talk about something real. Then he walked off the set. No storming, no yelling, just quiet dignity. The camera cut awkwardly. The hosts fumbled for words. The show went to break. But the damage had already been done. Online, the moment exploded. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Hashtags like #HarrisonWalkout and #RespectRealPain trended across the globe. Some people criticized Harrison for overreacting. Many more praised him for standing up against shallow TV behavior. But far away from New York, something else was happening. In a dark underground room deep in Virginia, in a government monitoring center known only by a number 431B, a silent alarm was triggered. Red lights blinked on a screen. A line of code flashed. Classified intelligence trigger subject. Ford. Flag code Alderson 7. A younger analyst looked up from his screen, confused. That can't be right, he said. But another man, older, in a black suit, wearing a badge without a name, leaned closer. His face grew pale. Said it. The older man whispered. The analyst scrolled back through the video's transcript. There it was, clear as day, Ford's exact words. came to talk about. Something real. A match. The system had flagged the phrase because it was part of an old hidden protocol, a dead man's switch built into military surveillance years ago, a system designed to stay asleep forever, unless someone said the exact right combination of words. They called it the silence protocol. The screen flashed again. A cold robotic voice said, "Protocol active. Subject Ford, verified. Level 7 clearance required." The older man picked up a secure phone. "It's live again," he said. "The signal's awake. And so is everything buried with it." In a quiet room, far from the noise of talk shows and social media buzz, secrets began to shift. Files locked for over a decade started to move. Names long forgotten reappeared on digital maps. And somewhere, someone who had tried very hard to disappear now knew they were being watched again. All because of a simple moment on live television. One actor, one comment. One truth that cut too deep, and a system that never forgot. The digital signal moved faster than light across fiber lines, satellite relays, and encrypted military servers. In a bunker beneath D.C., the alert hit a second server marked Dorman Alderson 7. Inside that system were files sealed since 2012, and a secret operation in Helmand Province. Afghanistan had ended in disaster, a black op that had been erased from every public record. And Harrison Ford's voice had just opened it. Back on the surface, the public still thought the story was about a celebrity walking off a daytime show. The clip had been viewed over 48 million times in less than 8 hours. If for ratings, half the morning hosts cheered Harrison as a national treasure. Others said he was too sensitive. But in quiet corners of the intelligence community, no one was talking about Joy Behar's comment. They were talking about what Harrison knew and why he'd said what he said. In an unmarked building inside Langley, a woman named Eliza Dorn, CIA analyst, Psychological Operations Division, stared at her screen. "Why him?" her colleague asked. "It's just a guy from Star Wars." Eliza didn't respond. She clicked on a decrypted folder. Project, Silence Protocol, Subject List. 5 names. 4 marked inactive. 1 flashing green. Subject. Number Way Harrison J. Ford, civilian monitor status, compromised. She sighed. "It's not just him," she whispered. "It's what he was connected to." She tapped a few keys and pulled up a grainy photograph. 2009, Kandahar. Airbase, standing in a circle, were 5 men, all advisors to a now-defunct military unit specializing in psychological conditioning. 4 of them were confirmed intelligence. Assets. And the 5th, Harrison Ford. He wasn't in uniform. He wasn't holding a gun. But he was there part of a private actors tour that had gone off-book for nearly 48 hours. No records of who he spoke to. No logs of what he witnessed. But shortly after, an entire forward operating base was wiped out in a rogue drone malfunction that never made the press. What did he see? The young analyst beside her asked. "No one knows," Eliza said, "but he stopped doing USO tours after that. Started funding private veteran support groups. Got tight-lipped in interviews. And now, a decade later, he walks off a talk show and says the exact trigger phrase that reboots a protocol no one's touched in years." Outside the room, a secure phone buzzed. Eliza picked it up. A deep voice spoke calmly. "We need a containment assessment. If the subject is speaking publicly, it may mean someone else survived." "Understood," she said, before hanging up. The voice added, "And Eliza, if Ford goes dark, you activate the fallback." She paused. "You really think it's back?" "I think whatever we buried in Helmand is trying to surface, and Ford just handed it a microphone." Elsewhere, in a quiet cabin deep in Wyoming, Harrison Ford sat alone by a fire. He hadn't spoken since he left the studio. Assistant had tried to call. News networks were requesting comments, but he ignored them all. Instead, he stared at an old leather box on the table. Inside was a folded piece of military cloth, a silver ring with coordinates engraved inside, and a photograph, four men in desert gear, squinting against the sun. He turned the ring slowly in his fingers, watching the flames dance in its reflection. Behind him, a secure device beeped. He walked over. The screen lit up with one line, "Silence broken." His jaw tightened. He turned off the lights, grabbed the box, and opened the back door. Some things you can run from. Some things you bury. Some things, once they're awake, never stop coming back. And Harrison Ford knew it was already too late.